We're studying Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 7, entitled Further Inquiries by Vidura. We're in Text 8. It's May 12th, 2024. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 7, Text 8. Shri Shuka Uvacha Saha Itam Chodita Kshatra Tattva Jigyasuna Muni Pratyaha Bhagavat Chitta Smayan Eva Gatasmaya. Shri Shuka Uvacha Saitam Chodita Kshatra Tattva Suna Muni Pratyaha Bhagavat Chitta Smayani Vagata Smaya. Shri Shuka Uvacha Saitam Chodita Kshatra Tattva Suna Muni Pratyaha Bhagavat Chitta Smayani Vagata Smaya. Shri Shuka Uvacha Saitam Chodita Kshatra Tattva Suna Muni Pratyaha Bhagavat Chitta Smayani Vagata Smaya. Would anyone else like to recite the verse? Shri Shuka Uvacha Saitam Chodita Kshatra Tattva Jigyasuna Muni Pratyaha Bhagavat Chitta Smayani Vagata Smaya. Shri Shuka Uvacha Saitam Chodita Kshatra Tattva Jigyasuna Muni Pratyaha Bhagavat Chitta Smayani Vagata Smaya. To Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 7, Text 8. Would anyone online like to lead the chanting of the text? Shri Shuka Uvacha. Shri Shukadev Goswami said, Sa, he, Maitreya Muni, Itam, in this way, Chodita, being agitated, Kshatra, by Vidura, Tattva Jigyasuna, by one who was anxious to inquire to know the truth. Muni, the great sage, Pratyaha, replied, Bhagavat Chitta, God conscious, Smayan, wondering. Eva, as if. Gata smaya, without hesitation. Text A, chapter 7, Canto 3, Srimad Bhagavatam translation. Sri Shukadev Goswami said, O King Maitreya, being thus agitated by the inquisitive Vidura, at first seemed astonished, but then he replied to him without hesitation, since he was fully God conscious. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Since the great sage Maitreya was filled with God consciousness, he had no reason to be astonished at such contradictory questions by Vidura. Therefore, although as a devotee he externally expressed surprise, as if he did not know how to reply to those questions, he immediately became perfectly settled and properly replied to Vidura. Yasmin vigate sarvamevam vigatam bhavati. Anyone who is a devotee of the Lord knows about the Lord to some extent, and devotional service to the Lord makes him able to know everything by the grace of the Lord. Although a devotee may apparently express himself to be ignorant, he is full of knowledge in every intricate matter. Manganatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayamupakadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Saganaragana Tanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitan Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshvare Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakalpatayubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha Patitanan Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarini Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasvatim Vyasam Tatojayam Udirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should first offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, and to Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, to Mother Sarasvati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshva bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavat utama shloke bhaktir bhavati naistiki. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 7, Text 8. Shri Shuka Uvacha Sa Itam Chodita Kshatra Tatvajigya Sunamuni Pratyaha Bhagavachita Smayan Iva Gata Smaya. Sri Shukadev Goswami said, O King, Maitreya, being thus agitated by the inquisitive Vidura, at first seemed astonished, but then he replied to him without hesitation, since he was fully God conscious. Okay, so I'm here with Ramachandra and Damayanti Prabhus, and here online there's Bhakti Devin and Anandini Prabhu and Bhakti Kim, and the Prabhus at Bhakti Oasis there in the Pensacola area. Okay, all right. So let's just get us the scene with what's happening here. So Vidura has asked questions, and um, uh, on almost the entire third and fourth cantos, that's 64 chapters, it's the conversations between Vidura and Maitreya, almost the whole third and fourth cantos. Those 64 chapters are the conversations between Vidura and Maitreya. So Vidura asks a lot of questions, and Maitreya is in the role of responder. So Vidura asks questions here at the beginning of chapter 7. Yes, and so then Maitreya, so Vidura's questions, they're just like so profound. And so yes, so then so Maitreya is like, whoa, like, what am I going to do with those questions? And he's like, wow, how am I supposed to respond to that? That's what's happening. Then in the same verse, so Maitreya at first seemed astonished. So he's like, whoa, because so Prabhupada explained that's like it's the devotee's humility, right? And it's the devotee's humility. Like I have, what chance do I have to respond to such amazing questions? I have no knowledge. Like when Srila Prabhupada, he's on some of his poetry there at Boston Harbor on the Jaladuta, one of his poems, he writes, yes, he's writing to Krishnas. I have no knowledge. I have no knowledge, no devotion, right? Bhakti, devotion, Vedanta, knowledge. And Prabhupada said, I have no knowledge, no devotion. And then he's praying to Krishna. Now, of course, Prabhupada's full of transcendental knowledge, but he's feeling himself, I have no knowledge, no devotion. And he says, so Krishna, now if you want to make this title Bhakti Vedanta true, you can make it true. I'm your instrument. I'm ready to be your instrument. So Maitreya says, I don't have knowledge to respond to those amazing questions from this highly intelligent, pure devotee Vidura. But then Maitreya replied to him without hesitation, since he was fully God conscious. Okay. So it's the humility of the devotee, and Prabhupada explains, although a devotee may apparently express himself to be ignorant, he is full of knowledge in every intricate matter. So, that's it. So, the nature of the soul is such Chit Ananda. Sat, eternity. Chit means consciousness or knowledge. And Ananda is bliss. Of course, material life means we're seeking eternity and knowledge and bliss in places that are temporary and full of misery and ignorant. And so they just give some shadow gratification from the external senses. But just the fact that we're looking on the internet, what's the news, means we want knowledge. Who won the game? We want knowledge. What's happening in the stock market? It's the soul's desire for knowledge. We're looking, we want to protect ourselves. We want a house, and we want an insurance policy, and we want some sort of stability and security. So much of our life is looking for that stability and security. Because we're eternal. We don't want to die because we're naturally deathless. And happiness, right? Looking for happiness in all the wrong places, that's material life. But the soul will naturally seek happiness, knowledge, and eternity. And then through Bhagavatam, through Bhakti Yoga, we get guidance and wisdom how to seek it in ways through chanting Hare Krishna, chanting the names of God. That's the real thing. That's the eternal bliss and knowledge. We're completely satisfied. So we're giving guidance how to practice austerities in a way that brings us ever deepening knowledge, bliss, and realization of our eternal nature. Human life means we're doing austerities. We're going to do austerities. We're going to give up some immediate gratification for longer term pleasure, longer term benefit, whether it's to start a business or get a college degree or whatever. Human life means we're going to give up, we're going to do austerity. And the recommendation of Bhagavatam, direct our propensity for austerity towards that bliss that'll never be destroyed. That, like that. So, okay, so Maitreya is like, so the nature of the soul is to be full of knowledge. So Maitreya, in his humility, he's saying, oh, I have no knowledge. I have no knowledge. Just like Prabhupada on the Jalajit, I have no knowledge. So it's not artificial. That's the true feeling of the devotee. So it's like they're both true. We want to cultivate that truly humble attitude without being artificial. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami in Chaitanya Charitamrita says, Jagamade Horti Muni se Papishta Pushara Kita Horti Muni se Lagishta. He says, I am more sinful than Jagai and Madai, and I am lower than the worms in stool. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, the writer of Chaitanya Charitamrita, he says, I am lower than the worms in stool. I'm more sinful than Jagai Madai. We're familiar with the pastimes of Jagai Madai. Okay. They were quite vicious creatures, and they got transformed by the mercy of Lord Nityananda to truly be pure devotees of Lord Chaitanya. And then Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami goes on and says, anyone who utters my name loses all his pious credit. No one should utter my name. Okay. Right. So we can't really believe these pure devotees. Right. So that's ecstatic language. That's ecstatic language. When Prabhupada writes, I have no knowledge, I have no devotion. That's okay. We're not meant to see that as factual. When Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says, I am lower than the worms in stool, we're not supposed to see that as factual. That's the ecstatic language. Sometimes in Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna comes out with ecstatic from the humble ecstasy. And of course, so we make that distinction. It's just like, oh, so if I may say things like, I am lower than the worms in stool, that makes me a pure devotee too. Let's just start things like that. People will see how humble I am. And then I'll get credit for being, wow. So there's the artificial humility. There's the, in psychology and personal growth, low self-esteem. We need to take, maybe Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami and Srila Prabhupada, they need to take self-esteem workshops. Like that, okay. Right. But then, so that's like the gauge. The gauge of everything is the feeling, whether it's a feeling of happiness, a feeling of sadness, feeling of humility. Is that moving us towards hiding under the covers and just hiding in my room? And is it moving us towards depression, towards alienation from self, towards no enthusiasm, no inspiration for chanting Hare Krishna? Or is it moving us towards inspired enthusiasm to serve Lord Chaitanya's movement, to chant Hare Krishna, to share Krishna consciousness with others? So we can see Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, that's real humility. He's not faking it. When he's saying, I'm lower than the worm in stool, no one should say my name, you lose all your bias credit by saying my name. That feeling is moving him to reveal the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So that's true spiritual humility. When Srila Prabhupada in his poetry is right, I have no knowledge, I have no devotion. Krishna, if you want to give meaning to the term Bhaktivedanta, make me dance, make me dance, make me dance on my own. I can't. Okay, so that feeling leads Prabhupada to spread the chanting of the names of God all over the world. So that's spiritual feeling. And that's the key for any emotion, any thought, any state of being. To what extent is it moving us to deeper enthusiasm or to more alienation? Okay, so we want to really, with the philosophy we get from the Vedas through Srila Prabhupada, there's no reason to ever say, I don't know, I can't answer that question. I mean, everything's here. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Ginam teham saviginam idam bhaksham yasheshata yajgatvam nirbhuryaj gatavyam eva shishate. Krishna says, now I'm going to share with you, Arjuna, all knowledge, phenomenal and noumenal, after knowing which there shall remain nothing further to be known. It's complete. All of the tattvas, all of the siddhanta is there, is there. And our realization of it can always be deepened. And so anything in Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam expands on, and Chaitanya Charitamrita expands on that. All of the principles are there in Bhagavad Gita. It's complete. So, yeah. So, like, if someone asks a question, I'm like, well, I don't know. I'm frustrated with that. I'm frustrated with that. I don't want to be an I don't know. Now, that could be coming. That is coming to a large extent from my false ego. I'm smart. I have the answers to the questions. Okay, so there's the material motivation. I don't want to say I don't know. And I don't want to pretend that I do know if I do. But then there's something healthy about it. There's something healthy about it. Let me study Prabhupada's books more. Let me hear Prabhupada's lectures more. Because I want to represent Prabhupada, and Prabhupada's giving us all knowledge. He's giving us all knowledge. And so in one sense, it's not necessarily humbling. I don't know. See, like, I'm admitting I don't know like that. I'm just so humble. Let's hit the books. Let's study Prabhupada. Let's learn the philosophy. Let's learn the philosophy. Let's learn the pastimes. Let's get urgent about that. It's the study. Also, of course, the more pure we are, we chant Hare Krishna, we naturally get more realization. So I remember this was, especially my early days in this lifetime in my Krishna consciousness career. And I would have questions. Yeah, I remember when I've shared sometimes about my time in Ir Atika, Esha Torah. It's the yeshiva in the old city of Jerusalem. The name of the yeshiva is Esha Torah, the fire of the Torah, right? And that's when I was just beginning to chant 16 rounds per day. I had a lot of association with top rabbis in the world. The founder of Esha Torah was Rabbi Weinberg. There was a Rabbi Ginsburg. He was a leading Kabbalist rabbi, Rabbi Ackerman. And then at first they were fine that I was chanting Hare Krishna, this and that. And I was walking around the old city of Jerusalem chanting 16 rounds a day while studying at the yeshiva. And then I would have conversations with the yeshiva bruchas. They were maybe about my age. Most of them were in their 20s. And then, the leaders, they were seeing that some of the yeshiva bruchas were becoming influenced by me. At the same time, they were more advanced. Some of them were more advanced in their studies, and in the Torah and Talmud and the Mishnah and Gemara than I was in mine. And so sometimes they would ask me questions that I didn't know, and I felt very frustrated. Like, I don't want to be caught like that again. So so again, it could be materially mixed, but then, okay, so let me study Prabhupada's books. So, and it's part of every day I look forward to most, studying Prabhupada's books for the philosophy, for the intellectual content, and to associate with Srila Prabhupada. Ultimately in the yeshiva, what I so much appreciated my time in the yeshiva. It was just about 3-4 weeks there in Jerusalem. But ultimately, I was seeing that just for some very basic questions, I was getting more satisfying answers from it from a relatively new bhakta or bhaktin in the Hare Krishna temple than I was getting from the most senior rabbis on the planet. And I appreciated their intellect and all, but it moved me to see like what Prabhupada's giving is most satisfying for me spiritually and intellectually. So we want to know, we want to be able to be like Maitreya, not to imitate, but we want to aspire to be like Maitreya. So first he's showing in this verse, I'll read the verse again. Sri Shukadev Goswami said, O king, Maitreya, being thus agitated by the inquisitive Vidura, at first seemed astonished, but then he replied to him without hesitation, since he was fully God conscious. So there's so much there in one verse. Sometimes Prabhupada will sometimes say that his spiritual master in Srila Bhaktivedanta Sarasvati in East Bengal, I think it was in Dhaka, which I guess is in Pakistan now, or something like that. Yeah. Yeah, that his Srila Bhaktivedanta spoke every day for 3 months just on the first verse of Bhagavatam. And Prabhupada would say every verse is like that. So just in this verse, there's Maitreya's natural humility. Oh, how can I answer that? And then it says, and then he replied without hesitation, since he was fully God conscious. Since he was fully God conscious. So how can I answer that? And okay, it's my service to respond to Vidura's questions. Not that Maitreya is going to be a faker or a cheater, like, well, I don't know, but let me just make stuff up. No. So there's the Vaishnava humility, and then he connects with God in the heart, with super soul. And Prabhupada explains that so eloquently in the purport. Prabhupada writes, anyone who is a devotee of the Lord knows about the Lord to some extent, and devotional service to the Lord makes him able to know everything by the grace of the Lord. I'm reminded of the metaphor of the like let's say if someone's riding a bicycle, so the bicycle has some power and we can go whatever certain number of miles per hour with the bicycle. Okay, and Prabhupada gives this analogy, but let's say if the bicycle gets latched on to a sports car and the sports car is going 80 miles an hour. So similarly, the spirit soul is such Chinanda. The spirit soul is so the spirit soul has chit potency. Chit potency, the spirit soul has knowledge. And we're made of consciousness, we're made of knowledge, awareness, we're made of wisdom. And of course, to whatever extent we're identifying with the modes, especially the lower modes, then that's covered, the diamond's covered. So we're made of knowledge. So we do have knowledge on our own. And to the extent that we connect with Super Soul, Krishna, Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada is the external representation of Chaitya Guru. Chaitya Guru is Super Soul in the heart. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Chaitya Gyam Chapi Man Vidi Sarak Kshetreshu Bharata Chaitya Chaitya Gyanam Gaya Yat Taj Gyanam Matam Mama. Krishna says in the body there's two souls, there's two persons. There's the Jiva soul, and then there's the Super Soul, the Paramatma, the Supreme Soul. So then connecting with Super Soul, Srila Prabhupada, the intelligence of Bhagavad Gita, the trans-phenomenal intelligence of Srimad Bhagavatam, then it's like, okay, the bicycle, it does have some power on its own, but then we're latching onto the sports car. Okay, like that. So Maitreya, he's God conscious, he connect with God's in his heart. So at first he's with true humility, so how can I answer those questions? I have no knowledge. But then it's like, so similarly, it's our service as aspiring followers of Srila Prabhupada to cultivate Krishna consciousness, including understanding the philosophy, and to share it with others. Share Krishna consciousness in the form of kirtan, japa, prasadam, and in the form of the knowledge, the philosophy, the pastimes, the nuances of the philosophy. Prabhupada, like, we can't conceive what a gift Prabhupada gave us in this Achintya Beta Beta philosophy. So it's our service. It's not our service to go, well, I don't know, I guess I'm so humble. No, it's our service to know. And then when we notice, oh, I'm not sure how to respond to that. Okay, let's find out. Let's ask. Let's study Srila Prabhupada. Let's ask someone who is able to share with realization about the nuances and the distinctions. Okay, so what's happening here in the pastime in the verse? Maitreya's first Vaishnav humility, and then he's saying, and then he's clear. It's my service to respond to Vidura, and he connects with the source of all knowledge. He connects with God in the heart, connects with God in the heart, with super soul. And so, so we all, so that super soul with that paramatma in the heart, that's the very essence. That's the very essence of that's the very substratum of existence. That's the very essence of who we are. It's the very source of the material energy, the spiritual energy, like that. And so, actually, it was just 2 days ago, on Friday morning. On Friday morning, I was invited to a conversation. Well, yeah, some or all of you are aware of it. A few weeks ago, we published a publication entitled Srila Prabhupada Shastra, Perspectives on the Infallibility of Srila Prabhupada. And I sent some copies around, but then last Monday, I got a letter from Brahmatirtha Prabhu, and he said that he and Ridananda Maharaj want to speak with me about that publication. They want to speak with me about that publication. And so they live right down the road, and they reside at, well, Ridananda Maharaj is based at the Bhaktivedanta Institute and in Gainesville, and Brahmatirtha also resides in Gainesville. So on Friday morning, I went down there and met, and we spoke for 3 hours and kibitzed and schmoozed. We did lots of kibitzing and schmoozing.
No schmoozing.
Okay. Okay. Kibitz is like, you know the word kibbutz, right? So kibbutz, the essence of kibbutz, it means group, So it means get together as a group and schmooze. So that was our service.
You're all of Jewish heritage, is that what you're saying too?
I'm kind of implying that. Yeah, either, yeah. So, yeah, you're seeing the meaning beneath the external meaning. Yes, I feel understood. So they went to speak to me about Srila Prabhupada Shastra, and we actually spoke for 3 hours, and I was very enlivened. And one thing, and the conversation went to many places. I'm not going to get into it here, but one thing I expressed to them about the actually Ridananda Maharaj was speaking a few points about super soul, because Srila Prabhupada Shastra relates a lot to super soul, and Prabhupada is the external representation of super soul. And so I shared, I said, well, one of the things we do is we have a school for transformational coach training, and in coach training, Anandini is here, and she directs the Swiss German branch. And so I said, there's so many techniques, so many methods, so many principles, and so many skills. And so I said to Ridananda Maharaj and Brahmatirtha, I said, yeah, and so we emphasize that the purpose of all the methods, skills, approaches is to support the client to connect with super soul in the heart. Okay. And I clarified that some there might be aspiring practitioners of bhakti yoga. Some of the students in the coaching school, they might have very materialistic orientations to philosophy. So we might use terms like connect with the highest guidance within, connect with God in the heart, connect with divine guidance, with intuition. We might use different terms, but that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. And as there's a text in the 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Mat chita sarvadurgani mat prasada karishasi Atachet Tvama Hankaram Nashoshyasi Binangshyasi. Krishna says to Arjuna, yeah, you listen to, be guided by Ahankaram Atachet Tvama Hankaram. Be guided by your false ego, and you're going to be more and more drowning in the material ocean. You'll be lost and drowning. But Krishna says, be guided by the voice of Super Soul in the heart, and then you'll easily cross over the ocean of material existence. So this is the key. This is what we're doing. This is more and more super soul connection. How can I know what Super Soul's saying? So we do have a connection with Super Soul. I mean, we all do. I know, pretty regularly, including this morning. I'm confused. What should I do about that? How do I respond to that email? What's going to happen? And then just chant Hare Krishna. Sometimes just a few seconds chanting japa. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And I get crystal clarity, how to respond, what to do, how to manage my time. So that's Super Soul. Of course, there's a text from Sri Brahma Samhita. So to the devotee, Super Soul appears in the form of source of Super Soul, Sri Krishna. Premanjana Charita Bhakti Vilochanena Santa Sadaiva Vidayeshu Vilokayanti Yam Shama Sundaram Achintya Guna Sarupam Govindamadi Pusham Tamaham Bhajami. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, the first progenitor, who is Shama Sundar, Krishna himself, possessing innumerable transcendental qualities and attributes, and whom the pure devotees see in their heart of hearts with the eyes of devotion tinged with the salve of love. So to the extent that we live a pure life, then we get those eyes, we move towards those eyes of devotion. And again, it doesn't need to be a mystery about what Super Soul is saying, because Srila Prabhupada's guidance, Srila Prabhupada's every vibration is Super Soul communicating with us. So Maitreya connects with Super Soul, and then he replies to Vidura. So this kind of, there can be a healthy frustration. I don't know the answer to that. See, like there's this, I don't know. There can be a grungy, ignorant, tamasic, I don't know, confusion, bewilderment. That's toxic and alienates ourselves from ourselves and our life purpose. Then there can be a healthy, I don't know, like a childlike spirit of discovery, a childlike spirit of discovery. That because the nature of the soul is to be full of knowledge, and the knowledge, the realization is infinitely expanding. The residents of Vrindavan, their understanding of Krishna, it's expanding millions of times at every moment. So knowledge is it's like, I know, it's not like a closed-ended thing, right? Because like even something, what's okay, well, what's spirit, what's matter? Yeah, so yeah, as Representative Prabhupada, we ought to be able to give like crisp response to that. And from a logical point of view, from personal realization, and referencing Shastra, referencing Srila Prabhupada. All three. Okay. Shastra, personal realization, and logic. All three. Now, at the same time, to the extent that we're alive in the process of bhakti, then we're going to get more and more realization of what's spirit, what's matter, what's the distinction between spirit and matter, so that the realization and the empowerment in responding to such a question that will naturally be greater tomorrow than today, and greater 10 years from now than now. Okay, so there's this, oh yeah, I do know the answer. It's never closed-ended. At the same time, it's just like, yeah, it's our service. It's our service to cultivate realization of these philosophical truths and be able to communicate them effectively, like Maitreya is doing in these essentially 64 chapters. And then, he's already expressed to Vidura. In many places, Bhagavatam talks about creation, as does Bhagavad Gita. And I think it could arguably be said that this section of the third canto is where creation is most extensively described in detail. So it gets quite intricate. It's already gotten quite intricate in previous chapters, and that goes on further. So Krishna says, Devi Shagunamai, Mama Maya Dhiradyaya, Maya Vaye Prapadyate, Maya Me Tam Tarantite. On our own, we're going to be bewildered by Maya. By Maya, we're going to drown and flounder in the material ocean. But one who surrenders to me can easily cross beyond it. The example given in the Vedas, the Prabhupada often quotes, just like even if we're a great swimmer and we're in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, it doesn't matter what a great swimmer we are, we got no chance. And then for one alive in devotion, sincere devotion, Tesham Satata Yuktanam Bhajatam Pridipurvikam Tadami Buddhi Yogam Yam Inamamu Pyantite. Krishna says, one who's sincere, I give the intelligence. I give the buddhi, I give the intelligence by which you can come to me. So our job is to be sincere. For one who's sincere, the Vedas say, then the Pacific, the big ocean contracts and condenses to the amount of water in the hoofprint of a calf. Like if it's muddy out and a calf is walking, and then it has its hoofprints, and then there's a few drops in the puddle. That's what the Pacific Ocean becomes. And then that's the imagery given. And it's easy to cross over that, taking shelter of Super Soul, taking shelter of the pure devotee, taking shelter of Krishna, taking shelter of Krishna. So, just in closing, for the first text of the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, that's the verse on which, as far as I'm aware, Prabhupada lectured on more than any other verse in all his books. 7.1 Bhagavad Gita, Maya Sakta Manaparta Yogam Yujan Manashraya Samshayam Samagram Yatigyasya Tatrinu. Krishna says, now hear, O Arjuna, how by practicing yoga in full consciousness of me, you can know me in full, free from doubt. With mind attached to me, because the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita ends Yogi Namapi Sarvesham Matketanantaratmana Shadavan Bhajate Umam Samayuktatamo Mata. Krishna says, of all yogis, because in that 6th chapter, Krishna describes Hatha Yoga, physical yoga, like that. He says, but the goal of all of that is pure bhakti yoga. So then he starts the 7th chapter. Now here, Arjuna, how by practicing bhakti yoga, in full consciousness of me, with mind attached to me, you can know me in full, free from doubt, free from tormenting doubt. So you can know me in full. Again, for me, that relates to the bicycle sports car example. Okay, so we can be all-knowing, the spiritual can be all-knowing, but it's not the same all-knowing as Vishnu Tattva is all-knowing, but we can connect with the sports car and then go at that speed. And then we're completely open for Krishna to reveal to us all wisdom, all knowledge, all realization, all revelation that he wants us to have to be empowered in our service, including our service of communicating the philosophy of Srimad Bhagavatam effectively. So we're studying Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 7, Text 8, Shri Shuka Uvacha, Saitam Chodita Kshatra, Tatvijiga Sunamuni, Patyaha Bhagavat Shita, Smayan Eva Katasmaya. Sri Shukadev Goswami said, O king, Maitreya, being thus agitated by the inquisitive Vidura, at first seemed astonished, but then he replied to him without hesitation, since he was fully God conscious. Hare Krishna, thanks for giving your attention to Srimad Bhagavatam. I welcome any comments or questions. Damayanti.
Thank you for the-
What's that?
Thank you for the class, Joe. I decided to listen last night, it was on the internet, wherever, but I found your conversation with Sita Pati.
Sita Pati, oh, you saw that.
That you
Okay.
just had yesterday, or?
Yeah, I was yesterday, 5 to 7:30 p.m. He and
It
his wife,
showed up in the evening on
Was-
my,
it came up. Oh, okay, that's
on
fine.
Facebook. Anyway, so I started listening to, I didn't finish all of it. But
Okay.
I was just listening and kind
Yeah.
of cleaning and doing some things, but he would give you questions.
He gave me a purity test.
He gave you like 2 purity tests.
Yeah. That was fun.
And it's exactly like, I was just thinking about that, how much I like one of your, not one, not the other, but just one of the
Yeah.
responses stood out to me. And it was so much like, I don't know if you were astonished, but like, okay, you wanted me to actually, I'm here to speak out principles, Srila Prabhupada Shastra, and that's the principle. And then from that basis of that principle, you
Yeah.
responded
To some
Yeah.
detailed verses and things like that.
diplomatically, but
Yeah.
fully Prabhupada centered. And anyway,
Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, one of the questions that I didn't even catch everything he said, but it was basically something about homosexuality.
Yeah.
Controversial topic, and I know
Yeah.
you want to speak, kindly and
Yeah.
like in based on Prabhupada. But where you ended up going was like, Prabhupada was the least sexist and racist and.
Yeah.
and,
Yeah, I think the language I used was something like, the
Or
language.
devoid, not least, but the devoid of, go ahead.
Yeah.
What did you say?
I'm gonna bring it back to you in a moment, but,
Go ahead.
yeah, Damayanti's talking about, yesterday, there's a podcast called Vaishnav Voices. It's hosted by Sita Pati and his wife, Donna Devi Prabhus. They're based in New Zealand. I think they're pretty close with Anand and Bhakti Marg. And they have a podcast, and they interviewed me about Srila Prabhupada Shastra, perspectives on the infallibility of Srila Prabhupada. And we went, and they turned off the recording after 2.5 hours. But after that, the three of us spoke privately for half an hour, and we could have gone on. But anyway, so because they came up some verses that are seen as controversial. For me, there's nothing controversial. But so I made the statement that no one has ever walked this planet who is as non-sexist, non-racist, non-homophobic as Srila Prabhupada. Okay. Oh, but what about, he says this here? Yeah, no one has ever walked the planet who's as non-sexist, non-racist, non-homophobic as Srila Prabhupada. Right? I mean, we're all familiar with basic analogies. We're not the car, we're the driver of the car. We're not the body, we're the spirit, soul. So to see anyone and to relate to anyone as the body, right? To whatever extent I'm seeing myself as I'm male, I'm 63 years old, I'm from the United States, I'm seeing that, oh, here's woman here, oh, this, I'm seeing someone according to their sexual preference or like that. It's one thing to see like, oh yeah, this car is a 2-door, this car is a 4-door, this car was made in Germany, this car was made in France. We see what the car is made of, and we're seeing the driver. So seeing the spirit soul. To the extent that we're relating to ourselves and others as anything related to the body, that's sexism. That's racism. That's homophobia, whatever term you want to use. So Srila Prabhupada never in any way did that. Srila Prabhupada, with inconceivable realization, saw everyone as the spirit soul they are. So I said, no one ever walked the planet who was as non-sexist, non-homophobic as Srila Prabhupada.
Anyway, I just thought it was relating to this verse.
It does, yeah.
That like, okay, you're asking the question, and this is going to go public, it's, you need to respond to that moment. And I thought that you brought, I was amazed where you went, that conclusion. I don't know exactly what the question was, but anyway, responded nicely to those questions, those purity tests. And regarding this verse, I'm just thinking that, it's like once someone lets go of their false pride and false ego,
Yeah,
then they become more free to admit their the humble status.
Humble
and
status, yeah.
Not the
Yeah.
source of anything, you know, that really we're just like we're really dependent on God,
Yeah.
on Krishna for
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
So then, when I'm just thinking like, you know, once you let go, you realize how vulnerable or insignificant you are, and then you actually have the freedom to reattach to the source, or you know, to receive in super soul inspiration.
Yeah.
So you become so much more powerful. I don't think we realize that when we let go of our false ego and false pride, and that like we have the chance to become like so much more empowered for a good cause too, like for on like the right side of, you know, to you know, to share God consciousness and clarify things and help people in a real way. And it's just like it's like so much more empowering when we let that go, but it also includes admitting our humble status and
requires humility.
yeah.
It requires humility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway. And then one more thing is I have a, like my father passed away, and
Yeah.
that has brought our family closer together. We went through something and
Yeah.
we have less of each other, and it was just like, it's not a huge family, like my mom, my two sisters, I have two nieces that are like 30 and 31.
Yeah.
I have a nephew and he's off in the Navy, and there's two little kids, and you know, my family. But there's a lot of bonding around my mom, my two sisters, and my two nieces, like the six of us as women in the family, and then there's, you know, there's a few boys out there, there's young boys and husband, but basically there's something like kind of core to us anyway. And I'm often in the position lately to clarify things. Simple things that could just be like,
yeah.
I want everyone to feel heard. Could we not switch topics like Michelle was talking, she has tears, now mom's crying, and I'm like, wait, Heather, can you stop, because I want to hear, I mean, of all people, can I please listen to mom, she just lost her, like, and
Yeah.
But you know, if you all want to go on interrupting each other when I leave, go ahead, it's your relationships, but I'm in pain watching everyone overspeak, but we just went through traumatizing thing.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but you know, I just.
You take initiative, you assume leadership to create a sacred space.
Yeah, but they all welcomed it once I said something.
They appreciate it.
Yes, they agreed with the principle.
Yeah.
They didn't know that they were, and it was triggering because they're like, I got feedback that I was controlling. And it's like, you know, okay, but I don't think I'm controlling. I really just want to take a stand at everyone's turn.
Yeah.
You know, but it was just like different principles and standards anyway. But it was challenging to hear the feedback, but anyway. And then spiritually, I'm like clarifying things like, okay, Dad is not here with us and in heaven and the bird in the sky and reincarnated. I'm sorry, but there's 4 options there where everyone's acting like any one of those is, because it's like a new age family.
Yeah.
So it's all put out there, and I'm like, the soul's not going in all 4 directions.
Yeah.
It's one soul. Like,
Yeah.
and but I can't, like, there's only so much I can do. Just when I'm there, or when I'm speaking to them, I bring something to light. But anyway, I sometimes I've handled it in a way that I feel is positive, and other times. Anyway, I guess I'm just saying that's my recent like time to bring clarity based on what I learned from Srimad Prabhupada and also from Sadhguru and you know, relationship skills. That's one of my projects, or you know, one of my services, not project, but service.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Thanks for sharing. It being like, and sometimes you experience yourself as relatively like, let's call it super soul connect. Like it's your role to bring clarity here. It's your role. And then in doing that, they appreciate. Sometimes you get some feedback that's tough to receive. At the same time, it's not your role to just be passive and let one interruption happen. It's not Yeah, it's not about controlling, it's about, I'm standing for this principle. And that, and you get clear, just like my tray is clear here. It's my service to respond to Vidura as unqualified as I feel. So you got in this gathering of the family ladies, it's your role to stand for this principle of sacred space, and I'll call it, and for super soul connection. Because in that sacred space, really hearing mom, really hearing each other, that means we're supporting each other to connect with super soul. That's essentially what it means.
Yeah, yeah, I will say that it could easily be triggering from childhood or whatever, like, hey, everybody, you wanna take a stand for something above this? Like, I really had that role of like wanting something more or
Yeah.
above or beyond, like wherever we were stuck. And not feeling heard at that time, not really having the skills, but now I feel like it's healing actually to go and still speak. Like the second time, a different sister said I was controlling,
Yeah.
and I was like, but then I went back and I was like, well, I hear you thought it was controlling. I really just didn't want. It was an issue in the kitchen with like foods mixing. But I didn't want that close to what I was preparing.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
vegetarian. And I was like, you may think of this controlling, but maybe it's just a different standard that
Yeah.
I have a specific standard that's important to me.
So you heard the feedback, and it's like there's taking a stand for listening in sacred space, and one person speaking at a time and others listening and taking a stand that that in the food we consume, we have our standards, and you have different standards I respect, and I'm standing for my standard. My purpose here is not to control and manipulate you. I do have my standards that I value.
I don't know where this is going, just responding with principles. That's all, thank you.
Thank you, Damayanti. Any other comments, sharing, questions?
I have a question too.
Ramachandra.
Met I don't know, he was a psychiatrist a while back, and he was sharing how in this journal, is it called DMS? They're like this, that has all the psychological dispositions.
DSM.
DSM.
Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Health Disorders, yes.
Oh, wow, okay. And he referred to this one disorder that basically when someone accepts a faith, a belief, a religion, practice, which is not part of his like surrounding, like either family, like his family, faith, or geographically, or which like leads to other dispositions. I was wondering what you would, since you also come from the field, I guess. I think you have the book there in your library, office library, so I thought maybe.
Okay.
What
So,
would you answer to that?
well, I'm not sure what that is. What I'm hearing from you, Ramachandra, is that you recently talked to a psychiatrist
I listened a
while back. And then what he told you is that it's actually an official disorder listed in the book.
Yeah.
That if someone is practicing.
That book.
Yeah. Okay. Well, first of all, I'm just going to say that's interesting. Because I'm not up on things, because either in our PPTC, in our coach training, we do talk about the DSM just because we want to be familiar with it, but we don't really practice or ascribe to the medical model. Now, back 30 years ago, literally 30 years ago, I got to know the DSM-4, means the fourth volume. I think the first edition came out in the 50s, and then by 30 years ago, they were in the fourth edition.
Right.
I'm pretty sure that wasn't there. I mean, I have 2 copies of the DSM-4 in this house. I'm pretty sure that there wasn't any mental health disorder describing if someone happened to be participating in a religious or spiritual group other than that of their upbringing. but by now they're up to the DSM-5 TR, I mean, the revised 5th edition. I'm not so familiar with that, I like that. So I'd be interested to see how it's worded. Of course, myself, I got kidnapped because the idea is David went crazy and he's chanting Hare Krishna like that. So I had personal experience, you know, I got kidnapped. So I'm not sure what to respond to. I mean, because I'm not sure what's actually there or exactly what the psychiatrist or psychologist told you. For sure, it you know, it gets to the relative and the absolute, you know, because like if, okay, so let's say if you're just in a nice Baptist family in North Florida, and then their child decides to become a Shiite Muslim. So I guess like, oh, okay, then there's some disorder. But then if, let's say in Saudi Arabia, some child of a devoted Muslim family decides to become a Christian Baptist, then you have a disorder. So it would seem to be all relative. So there's more we can go in that, but those are some initial principles. And then there's, you know, Prabhupada tells the story of a true story, because Prabhupada, he was like in court sometimes for different purposes, and there was like a murder trial, and they brought in an expert psychologist, probably in the 1940s or something like that, in India, and because the defense was saying that the defense of insanity, and so the prosecutor was asking the expert psychologist or probably psychiatrist witness, in your assessment, you studied this person who committed the murder. Is he insane? And the Prabhupada said, and the psychologist said, well, based on my study, everyone in this world is insane. So whether he's insane and he should get the death penalty, or you want whatever, I don't know, that's future stuff. But everyone's insane, like that. So you know, so some of you have heard me share this. You know, I'm actually many here been through PPTC. That back in 1995, I was taking a course in psychopathology. The course was offered by Florida State University, but it was offered at night at one of the buildings at the University of Florida in Gainesville. I remember our professor's name was Larry Goebel, and one day he brought in a guest lecturer, and the guest lecturer was a prominent psychotherapist in North Florida. So the guest lecturer came in, and so this course was all about the DSM, the whole course. So I learned about it, and that was DSM-4. The whole course was about psychopathology, and that was the whole textbook. So the guest lecturer came in and he held up a DSM, which is like, you know, like 2,000 pages. It's red cover, very, you know, very makes an impact. He held up the book and he said to the class, I believe this is a great work of fiction. And then he went on to say, and then every day, like 10 times for every patient, he needs to give a diagnosis to get the insurance money. So, and that's why even though I'm licensed to do that, it's been years since I've conducted even one session in that system. So I believe this is a great work of fiction. So if there is such a diagnosis there in the DSM-5, we illustrate it's like it doesn't say anything absolute, because like there's someone in one part of the world that decides to practice this religion or spiritual path, oh, they got a disorder. But in a different part of the world, like, oh, well, that's what's normal. But now if you're doing what they were doing the other part, so it's all relative. And to Prabhupada's philosophy, what we get from Bhagavatam, to the extent that we're invested in any material desire, that self-sabotage, it's actually insanity. It's revealing envy of our blissful nature. Our nature is to be blissful. So those are some comments on DSM. DSM, Diagnostic and Statistical Manual Mental Health Disorders. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Ramachandra. Anandini.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for your class and all the sharings. It's very enlivening. I have a comment and a question. The comment is that I'm often surprised when I lead a Srimad Bhagavatam reading group, for example, and then the readers, they have questions, and often when they ask the question or when they start asking the question, I get nervous and I think, how am I going to respond? And then interestingly, when I stay in a prayerful mood, I will have a response, and I'm surprised by the response myself. So this is an interesting experience.
Well, thanks for sharing that experience. I have similar, pretty much the same experience so many times, and that experience, that kind of is that's what Maitreya is experiencing here. So you can relate empathically with Maitreya.
Yeah, and sometimes they will comment, "Oh, you have such great responses," and then, well, I don't really know where. Yeah, well, I do know where. I do imagine where they come from, but it's not that I have all this knowledge for myself. So the question I have, I'm not sure how to formulate it. It's related to Srila Prabhupada's is Shastra.
Yes.
Like it's, I heard that it takes a pure devotee to recognize a pure devotee.
Okay.
And still we can recognize pure devotees by
Yep.
So could you speak about that?
Okay, yeah, right. Well, thanks for that. Well, I'll use the term self-revealing, just like Bhagavatam is self-revealing, or in the material sense, the sun is self-revealing. When the sun's revealing itself, well, let's get a flashlight and shine light on the sun so we can all see it. No, the sun is self-revealing. Bhagavad Gita is self-revealing. And Srila Prabhupada, our empowered Shaktivesh avatar, he's self-revealing. He's self-revealing. And so, and that's why we're here. So like one point I emphasize in Srila Prabhupada Shastra, because the conventional Vedic process, and I talked about this also with Ridanand Maharaj 2 days ago, because he read the Vedic process is one studies Shastra, and then through Shastra we get to understand what are the qualities of a pure devotee, spiritual master, and then we can assess who's really bona fide. That's the Vedic process. Ridanand Maharaj wrote that in one of his articles in 2022. So I quote him in Srila Prabhupada Shastra, but that's the process. You study Shastra, and then you can assess a candidate, whether they're actually a bona fide pure devotee. And then I write in Srila Prabhupada Shastra, and that's not my process. Now someone say, well, then that's not bona fide. Then that's not legitimate, like that. I'm just saying, well, okay, I'm just saying it's not my process. I'm just saying it's not my process. I didn't study the Atharva Veda. I didn't study the Upanishads or the Puranas to see if, like, does Prabhupada really match those descriptions? So for me, Srila Prabhupada is Shastra. Or just let's just take something, let's just say, okay, so it's described in the Kali Santarana Upanishad. Idi Shoda Shakam Nam Nam Kaligama Nashanam. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So the Yuga Dharma for this age is chanting the names of God. Haranam, Haranam, Haranam Eva Kevalam, Kilana, Stavina, Stavina, Stava Gatiranyata. That's the Yuga Dharma, chanting the names of God, and is following Sri Chaitanya, we chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. That's the Yuga Dharma for this age. But is it? I mean, is it really? Or we hear like the four regular principles, no meeting, no meat eating, no illicit sex life, and no drugs or gambling. Those will support you in spiritual life. Okay, well, maybe, I don't know. What I'm saying is, or Mangalarti or Bhagavatam class, this will be helpful for your super soul connection. Who knows? You know. So basically, I didn't study Bhagavatam or Kali Santarana Upanishad or Harinam Chintamani. I didn't study Shastra. All of that, Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, four regulative principles, Mangalarti. I just got that from Srila Prabhupada. So that's what I mean. For me, Prabhupada Shastra. Oh, but the proper way to do it is to check Shastra, which is more and more what's happening, including in institutions meant to represent Prabhupada, to see what they're saying is to, so Prabhupada is self-revealing like the sun, like the Bhagavatam. That's why, as covered as we are, with some drop of sincerity, we can get, okay, I accept. So more and more, what's happening is, well, look, some of what Prabhupada says is bona fide, but some of what he said is culturally influenced. So we need to check Shastra to, it's sort of like a check and balance on Prabhupada. That's the Vedic way. No, that's what they're saying. That's what's becoming more and more popular. Even in the podcast yesterday that Damayanti referred to, that's what Sita Padi and Don and David were saying. Like, yeah, more and more as time goes on, the idea of accepting that everything, because my stance, consistent with everything my stance is Prabhupada is not at all culturally influenced by any mundane culture. He's never influenced by the modes of material nature. Everything from Prabhupada is pure transcendental vibration. Oh, but what if Prabhupada says something that doesn't conform with my postmodern and modern education and upbringing? How could that possibly be true? So especially in those times, and that relates to what Damayanti was sharing, especially in those times, like, oh, that's an opportunity for me to become humble, that maybe there's some cultural bias in my upbringing, rather than rushing to Srila Prabhupada's cultural influence, rather than pointing the finger this way. Maybe my material education, as exalted as my teachers were in my family, and maybe some of the things I read on the internet media aren't completely true, because Prabhupada doesn't conform with it like that. So yeah, so Prabhupada is self-revealing, and so with a drop of sincerity, then Krishna reveals to us, that everything from Prabhupada is truth, and simultaneously it's non-different from the truth. Everything from Prabhupada, like everything from Shukadev Goswami, reveals truth and is non-different from the truth it reveals. Therefore, whether we understand it, we agree with it cognitively or not, with just some openness, we're transformed by the vibration and the pastime and every gesture, every seshta of Srila Prabhupada. Does that respond to your question, Anandi?
Yes, and it brings up new questions. I really like the self-revealing and the analogy to the sun. And may I ask one more question? Maybe
Yes,
someone
yes.
else.
That's what we're here for.
Yeah, like I'm thinking of Lord Jesus, for example. So his followers, his disciples, they fully trusted and believed this is the Son of God. And then, yeah, like at one point, the teaching they got confused, and it all became blurred. And And yeah, with Srila Prabhupada, what would you say? What would you recommend? That it doesn't happen? You know, like for anyone, you know, someone like me, or what can I do?
What can you do to achieve what purpose?
What can I do to well, I guess first of all, like fully embrace and accept that Srila Prabhupada is Shastra, he's sent by Krishna, he's an eternal associate of Krishna, and then communicate that to others without.
I like your response to that question, because yeah, what's going on in the, like, actually, I'm not sure if this was during the podcast or after the podcast was finished, and Sita Pati and Dana and I were talking yesterday, but Sita Pati shared, and maybe this was during the podcast, maybe it wasn't recorded, but he shared that just yesterday night, I guess for him that would have been Saturday night, whatever, Friday night, he's in New Zealand, or, you know, it's all topsy-turvy time stuff, but so just like recently, he went to a home program. And in the home program, someone asked about something, and he went to the whole program with a friend, and the friend's wife is a PhD in philosophy. And then in response to a question, the speaker, who was the, you know, the head of the home and Sita Pati's friend, went, oh, well, the answer to that question is Prabhupada is culturally conditioned from, you know, because he was from Bengal and this and that. That's why Prabhupada says that. So Sita Pati, even though he was a guest in someone else's home, he got furious. He got furious, and he said, look, if you want to give a sociology lecture, you want to analyze Prabhupada from a Marxist point of view, I mean, you can do that, but don't do it in a forum where you're also supposedly representing Prabhupada. No, you're not representing Prabhupada. If you want to give, here's Prabhupada from a postmodernist view, here's Prabhupada from an existentialist point, here's Prabhupada from the point of view of equity, of Marxist, or whatever. Okay, you can give that lecture, but not if you're on the Vyasasan and supposedly representing Prabhupada. And then, according to Sita Pati, then the Prabhu's wife got really angry and this and that. Anyway, but so I like your response to the question, because what's going on in the name of Prabhupada, it's becoming more and more deviated. It's not being reformed. It's getting further and further from Prabhupada. I'm speaking generally. I'm not saying everywhere. Yeah, that's like starting. Well, and this has been happening since the 70s, but starting 10 years ago, I started hearing a lot in different sectors, especially amongst intellectual devotees. I would hear directly, Srila Prabhupada is not Shastra. I mean, that's like direct. Srila Prabhupada is not Shastra, meaning to figure out what from Prabhupada is okay and what's not, we need to check Shastra. So I've been hearing that directly. So in the name of representing Prabhupada. So it's very sad. It's very painful, and that's what inspired me to write the book, Srila Prabhupada Shastra, and to be on the podcast last night and to share it. Yes. So yeah, to cultivate our conviction and share enthusiastically.
Mm. Yeah, I can say for myself, when I hear Srila Prabhupada, he's like Vyasadev, then I feel some fear. For me, that's really big.
Yeah.
I don't know, and yeah, I don't know how others feel about that. I just feel it's huge.
It's huge. And
I wonder why would I feel fear? I want to fully accept it, and I think I do almost, but so creates fear. I wonder why.
Yeah, thanks for sharing Thanks for sharing. Anandini, is it the same fear if you go, yeah, Srila Prabhupada's every vibration, every word, every movement, Prabhupada is in the same transcendental meditative state as Srila Shukadev Goswami. Same fear as the comparison to Vyasadeva, or less or more?
I think when the comparison comes in, the fear comes. When you say everything Srila Prabhupada represents is like pure, and I'm okay with that. It's when the comparison comes in.
You're okay, yeah. And that's why, yeah, it's like I make these bold statements in Srila Prabhupada Shastra that everything from Srila Prabhupada, including those things that are, to our mind, are apparently contradictory, it's the same quality of trans-rational, trans-phenomenal vibration that comes from Srila Shukadev Goswami and Srila Vyasadeva. And Sitapati, he used the term which I liked. At one point, fairly early in the podcast, he says, well, Dhira Govinda, this is a very 1970s hermeneutic. Hermeneutic means a way to understand spiritual literature. So basically and that's the response I'm getting. I told him, Sitapati, you're saying it's a 1970s hermeneutic. I take that as a compliment. And he said, I meant it as a compliment. It's very sweet. And that's what I'm getting. I'm getting a lot of harsh criticism from different sectors. I won't go into that. But mostly what I'm getting is sincere followers of Prabhupada saying, communicating to me like, Dhira Govinda, what you're writing is kind of like, yeah, this was just sort of assumed back when I was growing up in Krishna consciousness 50 years ago, 40 years ago. Now it's like, you can't say it, and you're saying it. But this is kind of what I grew up with. In Srila Prabhupada Shastra, I include some endorsements from a few devotees, including Mother Malini and Madhua Prabhu, Malini and others. They write, it's actually very sad that Srila Prabhupada's Shastra needs to be written, because this is just like naturally understood for a sincere follower of Prabhupada. But because in the society, things are drifting so far away from what Prabhupada actually gave us, now it's like, oh, it's practically taboo to say the things that Dhira Govinda is saying here. And that's sad, but we're glad he's saying it. And yeah, because now to say those things, like Malini wrote that in her endorsement, like now it's like out of fear that you'll be ridiculed, you'll be vilified like that, then you'll be kicked out, you'll be ostracized, that people can't even think that. So yeah, I'm stating that Srila Prabhupada is the same quality of consciousness as Shukadev Goswami and Srila Vyasadeva in revealing the Bhagavatam. Damayanti?
I just wanted to add that, I think the concept of the parampara can be helpful,
Yeah.
because I think it's like a, concept that says, okay.
Yeah.
Krishna sending representatives or coming as representative himself through the time.
Yeah.
And Prabhupada's, one of the Prabhupada, so he's just as, you can compare him to anyone in the Prabhupada.
Yeah.
He's just as empowered.
Yes, yeah.
And why, and logically, just using logic, shouldn't he be just as empowered as comparing them to any of them? Like absolute, like it makes complete logical sense that he would be.
Yeah.
So, that's just a comment. Maybe that's helpful. That's what came to mind. This is a parampara.
Thank you, Damayanti. It's helpful for me. Thank you, Damayanti.
I think someone from the Madhvacharya, he mentioned that Prabhupada is like, in terms of like empowerment,
Yeah.
this level of empowerment is like all the 5 great acharyas or something that combined. And there was a memory of devotees that were traveling I think it was Bangalore devotees that went to the Madhavacharya, South Indian
Yeah.
Sampradaya. All the acharyas came from there, and they highlight how Prabhupada's position is so extraordinary. And I mean, that's the thing about Parampara, it takes time. Like it took Jesus like 400 years to form something, right? And then so many revisions, like St. Francis came 12 centuries after, right? Or something like that, 13. So like with time, I think our appreciation will grow, and Prabhupada's potency will be more
Or appreciated,
Appreciated.
and revealed and experienced.
revealed, and
Then, yeah,
and everything that happens in between, the mysteries of the Parampara don't look like insignificant. Because it is said that something like this should be written, right? But at the same time, it's like, yeah, this is it's to me like looking also like the American culture, like
Yeah.
that we like sort of moving in, and like, I mean, it's all over the news too, what's happening here globally, but it's really like similar to what's happening to like the shift in like authority, or like in universities.
Yeah.
And everyone is questioning the authority, but not in the sattvic way.
yeah, yeah.
They're questioning it to like get something from it, right? So it's the same thing, because I think you mentioned it yourself when we spoke about your writing, how these same people that wrote that you need Shastra to check the Shastra, they never checked the Shastra themselves before getting all the benefits of
Yeah.
accepting Prabhupada.
That's a great point. That's a great point.
And doing it from ISKCON with all the ISKCON facilities. So yeah, it seems like, you know, the battle of the cultures, and ultimately Prabhupada is way beyond this temporary Western, Eastern, European culture, whatever it is. And it will prevail, he will prevail, you know, within the course of time, and maybe we'll see it if we stay here, maybe not.
Great points, Ramachandra. Yeah. Jai Srila Prabhupada, yeah, that's it. That's it. And yeah, it's all about expanding Prabhupada's glories. We're doing a lot of, spending some time these days in the past 25 years, revealing the truth of Prabhupada's disappearance pastime. And it's not essentially about getting angry at this one, but it's about revealing Prabhupada's glories. There's a quote from Prabhupada, February 77, which could be, according to the forensics, just when the poison started. And Prabhupada says, he said that Jesus's movement didn't really go anywhere until the truth of the crucifixion was revealed. Basically, Prabhupada said when the truth of Jesus' disappearance pastime was revealed, that's when the movement really started gathering momentum. Just like an interesting comment right there in February 77. So yes, so Shilpa, and yeah, like how you say that, because it's the author of the article who wrote that, no, the process is you need to study the Shastra to see what from Prabhupada, see if is he bona fide, is this part okay, like that. Yeah, the author of that article, just like my process, he didn't study Shastra before he came to Prabhupada. He didn't study Shastra to see, is this true that the Maha Mantra is really the Yuga Dharma? He just, his process was Prabhupada Shastra. Now he's changing that and wants to change it for others. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm getting a lot of understanding, and also I think to really, to really accept that it's, when it's Vyasadeva in the book, I can still keep it a little away. It's there in the book and it's nice. And to bring that to Srila Prabhupada, it's to bring it into my life. It's all real.
Yeah.
And that's what's scary.
Thanks for
I
sharing.
mean, not scary, like in a terrorizing way, but it's also exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Scary and exciting. This is the real adventure of Krishna consciousness. And I like how you share that with Prabhupada. Prabhupada makes a real Vyasadeva a book, but we're thinking Prabhupada, that's a person. same level of consciousness, same quality of consciousness as Vyasadeva, as Shikadev Goswami. Okay, we're hosting another morning program tomorrow, and very possibly I'll continue in some of the same directions as we're going in this discussion. We'll see, but very possibly, because I get there's a lot of excited energy, edgy energy. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.